Hello and welcome to Facebook Live. I am Kenda Ruth, and we are going live in three places today. I am going live on YouTube, I'm going live on a private Facebook group, and I'm going live in a public Facebook page. So I'm going to go to each of those pages on Facebook and post in the comments so that you can know what group you are in. And we are going to get going today. I have barely read through these since I was running behind, and I just didn't realize I was running behind. I was trying to finish a few more projects. I looked at the time and I was thinking I have an hour, and then I realized, no, I'm an hour off. So I've just scanned through them. So if I don't seem as familiar with the questions, that's why. But usually I do a lot on the fly anyway. So we should be pretty good. So let's get into putting the comments so you know which group you're in if you're not aware. And we can get going. So I have to refresh the page. That'll make sure I'm coming in fine, and then I can put these comments in. Okay, now within those comments, I've also put, well, thank you, happy Mother's Day. I have also put the link to Understanding Midlife Crisis, which is my free course. If you have not enrolled in that, you can enroll in that. Like I said, it is free. It is meant to help you just get some of your basic questions answered, to get you through the whys of anxiety, or at least help you start getting through that. Sometimes we'll cycle through that, but sometimes getting answers can help. Okay, let me refresh this screen. Always takes me a while to find where I am on it. There I am. Okay. We are there. And I'm doing a little bit of an experiment, or some of the recommendations I'm going to do. It's everything that you do. And the advice, it's always an experiment anyway when I say, well, maybe try this, because it'll work with one person and it won't with another. It can be the same situation, but the dynamics of the roots are different, the different people. So based on the email that I sent out last night, if you received that, I was talking about control, and not how you may have been controlling pre-MLC, but what behaviors now, with all of the fears going on, might your MLCer interpret as controlling. And I'm looking at a lot of things that we don't even think of as controlling. The little tiny jabs, and this could have been the history as well, little tiny things. Why are you doing that? You know, maybe you should turn this way, go this route when you're driving instead of that way. But I was only trying to help. I felt that was a better way. Those are controlling. These little tiny things, and we don't think of it. It's just like, well, I drive that route every day. I know better. If you're saying I know better, there's a clue right there. But once you get to the betrayal and the lack of trust, more obvious control will come in as well. So I'm doing a little bit of experiment with some of the recommendations, which is always an experiment, but let's see how much we can let go and accept with what we need to be doing. So let's get to our first question. Our first question is from an anonymous female left behind spouse. Her bomb drop was October of 2021. Date of marriage is 2018. She has an off and on who is a low energy wallower. She says, I found out my husband was having an affair with a friend at bomb drop. He moved straight in with her. Until recently, he would contact once a week, but now it's been over 3 weeks since the last contact. I'm struggling with the no contact and understanding where he is in terms of his stage. Is this typical of withdrawal? Should I wait for him to hopefully contact one day, or can I reach out and give him an update on our shared pets? This has nothing to do with withdrawal first, and if you stick around long enough, you'll find I just don't believe in withdrawal anyway, as a stage. You are very new from bomb drop, just outside of 6 months. So this is escape and avoid behavior. If your spouse is an MLC, it's escape and avoid. It's going to be escape and avoid when you ask me this question at 12 months. And at 18 months, I'll probably say it's probably escape and avoid, because escape and avoid is going to last that long. So everything that you're going to be seeing is that, and you could see cycling. So when people who are new and they think their spouse is in withdrawal, their spouse is cycling. So it means that it'll be this way, and then, they'll be pursuing or distancing. They'll be contacting a lot, and then they'll pull away. And you can call that a withdrawal on the cycle if you just want to use the term withdrawal to describe it. But if you're using the term withdrawal because there's a stage in Jim Conway's book, Midlife Crisis, that he named withdrawal, that is several years into the crisis, that stage that he named withdrawal. So it depends on how you're using the term. Withdrawal is also something that we see as alienator withdrawal. When they break up with her, which isn't your case, there's a withdrawal period, just like you're withdrawing from any other addictive substance. And can they stick it out through that withdrawal period? What you're saying, should you wait for him to contact? Yes, right now, I would. It's been 3 weeks and it might seem like forever. Yeah, we do want you to have some reasons for smart contact. I would rather you wait a little bit longer. Okay, I want him to feel like you've given him space. I want him to feel like if you call and give an update on the pets, I get a sense that he will sense the anxiety and agenda behind the call. He'll sense the panic of it. And anxiety is control. It's not that those are synonymous. It's those, when anxiety is fear-based. And when you are anxious, you have this need to control your environment, control your situation, to manage the anxiety. And when we talk about anxiety, this is something that I work with every day because my husband Chuck has a severe anxiety disorder. And he's had it since before we met. And we've been together 27 years. Is it 27 years this year? And we deal with it constantly, and it's only ramped up with 5 kids. So, and in the last few years, about 6 months into COVID, it got worse because he got a medical condition, which we don't know what it is still, but we do think that it is anxiety caused. So anxiety, you are so worried about what is going to happen that you attempt to control things in your environment. And I sense a lot of anxiety right now in that. And one of the things I want us all to be thinking about is, where are we being controlling? And if we're having anxiety, and trust me, it's normal if you're having anxiety and your bomb drop was only 6 months ago, it's normal for you to feel that way. It's normal, but normal isn't healthy. So I want us to take the big risk and think about, what can we do that feels risky, because it feels like we're just flying blind and dropping the rope, and they're going to think we've just let them go on the other side. And by let them go, I mean like forgotten about them, don't want them, dismissing them. But really, we're giving space, and we're using that space now to focus on us. So I want you to wait longer, and I would like it if you give it, what kind of update do you need on the pets? So when I was in a midlife, when Chuck was in his midlife crisis, all we had were pets as well. I didn't have kid reasons to call, which might be more valid. And yeah, I wanted to talk about Te Amo too, but really, she was a dog. She was fine. I had a reason on catastrophe, because just before bomb drop, she had been diagnosed with a heart condition and given only a few months to live. And he was getting her pharmaceuticals, so he would drop them off. And when she died, I let him know. If your pets are having surgery, that sort of thing, let them know. If they're dying or they've died, let them know. But if it's, I just need an excuse, and that I'm going to call and tell them that, Sapphire misses you. Sapphire is the dog. She was the dog we got after Te Amo during his midlife crisis, and she was fine. Te Amo was fine. She missed him, sure. And then she spent time with him. And I went overboard with that because I'm like, oh my God, my poor baby is going camping with the alienator and her dog. They're dogs. They got along fine. So my own fear was trying to control this, and I was sitting in there trying to stop it. What can I do to stop this? And all of the rest of you who are parents out there are going, what can I do to stop this, my kids? And here I am with a dog. And I felt pretty silly. I mean, I knew it along, but I was so scared it was making me anxious. So I would drop that as your reason for smart contact right now and find something even more neutral. And when you do have smart contact, I would rather have the neutral excuse of, hi, I hadn't heard from you in a while, just checking in, rather than, hey, I wanted you to know that Sapphire is doing really well. Because Sapphire's a dog. We know she's doing well. Unless we'd heard otherwise and there was a problem. But if you also call to tell her Sapphire really misses you and she's whining all the time, you're making another excuse. So we have to be really careful when it's the pets. Let's see if there's anything else. No, just wait right now. Wait. After another 3 weeks, go ahead. If you have a neutral contact that is business taxes, we just passed tax day, then use that. Otherwise, I would rather have a just checking on you. I hadn't heard from you for a while. Hope things are okay. Let's move on to number 2. Again, almost everybody is anonymous today. We have an anonymous female left behind spouse. Bomb drop was August of 2020. Date of marriage is 1997. He is at home, an at-home MLCer. He has never left before, and he is a low-energy wallower. She says, so my husband's extramarital affair, and it was, or she said emotional affair. I'm sorry, I put in E. It's EA. This was an emotional affair that did not go physical. Is now over, and she's moved on, and she's married. It was a very sudden marriage. And he's working on his way through his midlife crisis, and by his own words, he's talked of reconciliation. And so he's talked of reconciliation, even though he really never physically left the marriage and that sort of thing. The emotional affair took place exclusively at the office. She's an employee, but it was very limerent. He was deep in the fog. Anyway, now that it's over, I've told him more than once that as long as she works there, he can't expect me to be okay with it while he speaks of reconciliation. Many at the office staff chose sides during it. Some merely quit. Now, I guess they're getting along well enough to work together, but there are still things simmering under the surface. So my question is, could this be a twisted form of cake eating? Wanting to keep his successful business intact and not rock the boat, yet keep me as well. I'm okay with it for now. It doesn't affect my day-to-day life. I'm still waiting for the fallout someday. So you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Get it? Just a thought I had. Your thoughts? And then she adds, so to add to my question, she added later, the weird question about cake eating. It seems that he's trying to maybe be the caring boss again. So the work environment became, I don't know if it got to a toxic level, but became much more uncomfortable during this with him and his employees as well. So he's trying to pull them back and make up for it. He's trying to be friends with everyone again. He took a group of them out to lunch yesterday, and his former affair partner was included. And remember, this is an emotional affair, so saying partner probably isn't accurate. I don't think it was at the level of when Chuck had his emotional affair. It was an affair that they were planning to go physical. They were planning to be together. They were just waiting till he was no longer living at home. And on her part, she's like, I'm waiting till you're divorced, but he hadn't even filed. So, by the time, but it was planned to be a physical affair. That was his intention. And he didn't hide that once he told me. He told me that was the plan. So this one is more the kind of emotional affair where they may have realized it, but sometimes you don't realize it. I didn't realize that I was having an emotional affair with this person, and it shocks them. Then they defend it. But there was a lot of texting, and I think on her part, she was trying to be an alienating force, and he was maybe stuck within it. So let me go on. I've noticed that his infrequent text to her seemed to be more friendly again, but still strictly professional. Good. I've really no reason to suspect anything. I know what you're saying. So everybody out there, especially the people who are just reading it, goes, well, of course you have reason to suspect because there was a thing in the past. But I know what you mean. And I agree with you. But I can't wrap my mind around him and her remaining friends while he still treats me like relative crap. I've told him several times it can't be this way, but here it is. Now what? Okay. And this was the one I was really thinking of when I talked about let's try this, the radical step of taking the risk and not being controlling. Okay. He's still in his crisis. He wants to be coming home, but he's still very sensitive to it. He still is hesitant about things. He's still angry. He's still cycling. So he keeps going back into his cave. You'll have a good few days, and then there's the bad few days, and then he's mean to you. And I don't mean even overtly. It's just there's this undercurrent of an angry, or I don't even want to use the term angry, but grumpy man. And how much better is he going to feel if he doesn't have the extra thing nagging on him? That extra thing being, you really have to do this. You've talked about reconciliation with me, and it is not fair. You need to get rid of her. We all might agree. He might understand all of that, but for him, it's still controlling. And it doesn't matter if you're right or not. She's not trusting me to take care of it. She's not trusting me to handle it. And he's still in his crisis, so he's not yet capable, or let's say ready, to fully do all of the steps he needs to do. He's still focusing. Remember how MLCers aren't helping themselves. They are focused so inward. There are so many things on his repair list to do that can't he just focus? Can I just work on me right now and leave that thing? I know it's important, and it's important to you, but he's not doing it. And why? First, does he have cause? He might be afraid of whether he can. Maybe he is afraid of the backlash. And an NLCer is a weak person. He's going to run from all of those things. If there's a fear in it, I'm going to put this in the avoid pile. Everything that is a fear, I'm going to put in the avoid pile. It makes me anxious when I think about having to do it. Sure, it makes me feel guilty because I'm hurting my wife. But I'm also anxious. I just can't deal with that piece of it now. And he feels like he's not being trusted. And I don't mean trusted in the fidelity manner. I mean trusted in the professional manner of she's not trusting me to take care of my employees, to handle my business, and with my personal life, things that I'm supposed to make a decision about. Similar to if Chuck came down here and told me how to run this and what I should be telling you. I'm like, dude, you don't know anything about this part. You don't know how the technical camera works. I mean, it's just a camera, and sometimes, very rarely he does that, but sometimes he'll make a comment about something and I'm like, whatever that is, it works in the opposite way. And it just feels like he's not trusting me. Fortunately, he typically leaves it alone, but just those little times, even that one comment, I'm like, why is he saying that? It kind of grates on me. And is he feeling that way about you crossing into his business? Even if you used to work there and help him run it, and you still do pieces of it, there still could be this boundary. He feels that a boundary might be being crossed, and it's not trusted. So I want you to think about taking the radical step of, you know what? I'm going to let him handle it. And maybe not only that, let's go a little further. Let's go a little further with this, and you might not like this, and this might be hard. Apologize. I know. You know what? Say, I'm really sorry that, that I've been bothering you. You could say nagging, bothering, that I haven't, it's hard for me to let this go. And I'm so sorry that I haven't been letting you handle this on your own. Because you know what? I know you're a professional. You've had to do this before with others. You've had to let people go. You've had to keep people. You know how to manage your business. You know how to manage people. And I'm so sorry. Because I guess I didn't realize it seems like I haven't been trusting you to handle it. And I do. I trust you to handle this. I know you will. I know you're a good man. I know you're good at your business. And I know you're a good husband. Show him that. And then don't go out there with an expectation that because you did that, he's now going to get rid of her. Go out there with an expectation that that is going to help him move forward to get to that place where he can now sever ties with her in a more professional manner as well. It's an experiment, and it's risky for you. It doesn't mean that maybe that risk probability wise, if we had statistics, wouldn't be as risky. But it's one of those things that's risky for our heart. We feel this is the opposite. Because the question is, I don't really think he's cake eating. And so one of the questions with when we take this kind of risk is, am I enabling? And we have to find a balance. Because for some situations, and that's why I said the same thing will work with one and not with the other. I'm just going to be quiet about this and not talk about it without sweeping it under the rug. See, when is it rug sweeping? And when is it, I'm going to let him take care of his side of the bed. I'm going to let him deal with his issues. There's a balance. And we don't always know where the line is because the line is going to be different for each situation. And it could be different if this happened again or something similar. The line is going to change in your own situation as well. Okay? So I'm just encouraging you to try that because I think he's still feeling some control. Okay, do you send a Mother's Day card or just leave it to the kids? In your situation, John, I would leave it to the kids since they are adults. Now, if your kids were children, and I don't mean like 17-year-old children, but not practically adults, but 12 and under maybe, then I would encourage and be a part of it and send them. But because they are adults in their 20s, you can say something to them, but you don't have to. Again, just saying something could be a control thing for the children. It's like you could talk to them about it. Hey, remember, did you know it's Mother's Day? I almost forgot. Say it that way. Just offhand and like, oh, they might. Oh, yeah. And I'm not interested. I don't want to send anything to her because I'm mad at her or the other way around. But no, you have to stay out of that one. Sorry. But when it's adult children especially, you got to leave the relationship to her and them, even if she isn't feeding the relationship. Okay, I'm going to see if anybody else said anything. Nope. Okay. Number 3. Another anonymous female left behind spouse. Bomb drop was June of 2020, so we're coming up to 2 years. Date of marriage is 2009. Contact type, she is a clinging boomerang who is a high energy replayer. Over the past weeks, my husband was coming home more, staying past the kids' bedtime to be with me. He's been more polite and made an effort to chat with me. On Sunday, we went out for a family dinner. Throughout the dinner, he got more and more agitated and distracted. After we put the kids to bed, he announced he was leaving and asked me for the car keys. I have the car 99% of the time. So he doesn't live at home, but you usually have the car, but he can still take it, is what it sounds like. Sometimes you switch. Okay. I get anxiety when he takes the car, as despite me asking him politely on occasion not to have her in it. He agrees, but he has her in it because I can smell her perfume. I asked him again, please not to have her in the car. He ended up shouting at me so loud that the kids woke up. Our eldest was begging him not to go. He was following me around the house swearing. I told him I will not be spoken to or treated this way. He was pure monster. He left and since has only come to see the kids for a few hours despite 2 public, I don't know what HOLS is, 2 public holes. He ignores me completely and has blocked me on his phone. How best to deal with this? We're going to go back to the previous one with that control thing. So you either need a severe boundary with the car where if you have it 99% of the time, you get it 100% of the time. I'm not going to recommend that though. And because he's been coming around, he's been being nice. I want there to be boundaries in place. And if that had been, let's say it had been a boundary and not, it can be an unspoken one, but he just had always, you had one car, he had another. And so they were separate things. And then suddenly he's changed it. Then I would say, he asked for it, may I? I would say you could say no. But if it's been a normal thing where occasionally he could take the car, I would be flexible. Now, with Chuck and I, we had separate cars anyway. I was the main driver of one. He was the main driver of the other. Strangely, it switched eventually when I did not total my truck. When I was hit and my truck was totaled. And that wasn't, the thing is with that, there wasn't even a question because he had an alternative vehicle. It was not reliable at all. I had to come rescue him one time. But I got the car after that, and it wasn't questioned. I didn't say, okay, I'm taking the car. He did. That was just how it worked, and it happened. I had the accident when he was living at home again. But we already had that. This is my main vehicle. This is your main vehicle, and we could switch it back and forth if we needed. But it was like we knew this was his car and this was my truck. Ironically, now it's my car and his truck. So if you have the car, you can set up a boundary where no. But here's what I would do. I want that radical release right now. I want us to work on, this is the project we're working on, everybody together. Radical release, radical detachment. So this is the letting go. Yeah, you don't want the alienator in the car. Now you've set up something where he feels controlled by telling him, reminding him, I don't want her in my car. He already knows it. She's on the other end of that as a neg. Well, you have to let me in or something like that. And he feels he can't. Maybe he feels in a bind. He can't say no to her. You're not sitting right there next to him as the neg on, other than the little angel on his shoulder, but you're not literally saying there, get her out of my car. If you were there with him, well, of course, obviously, but he'd be able to withstand it. But the person who you are with that is controlling is the one that is in control. And what I mean by that is if you're standing there with him and he's doing something that you could, prevent him from doing and convince him to change it, that sort of thing. And she was not there, but she would like it if he didn't do that. Let's say it's alcohol. She hates it when I know it's the opposite. She hates it when he drinks and will nag him if he drinks, but you don't, and he's with you, and it's not going to be a problem. But you don't want him smoking. It's going to be a problem. She doesn't care if he smokes. He won't smoke around you. But as soon as he's with her, he'll light up. And he will drink around you, but he won't drink around her. The person who he's with in that moment, and I don't mean like in a relationship, I mean in the presence of, has the possession of the greater control, or let's call it influence. And I'm not saying that you should have that, but just being in your presence. So when he's in your presence, he can agree. And it doesn't mean he's lying or not lying. It means that you're not asking something that he could really follow, because now he drives to wherever she was, and maybe that was the plan. Not that she was planned to be in the car, but he was driving to see her even. Well, I'm just borrowing the car so I can go over it. Maybe he was borrowing the car so he could go pick her up. Not that I think that's a good idea, but hey, he's already in an affair. And so he's already doing things much worse than putting her in his car. And is that the argument you want to really choose on and die on, is the car? Plus, he's now feeling controlled. Now, I want to look at another piece of this as well. You were having a play. He was chatting. Sunday you went out to a family dinner. But you didn't say that there was anything going on. He became more agitated and distracted. So there's a few reasons that can be going on. Number one, he could have felt the phone. Maybe it was on a silent buzz or something, but he knows that she is there contacting. Or he knows he's supposed to be somewhere else that involves her and she is back, but he doesn't want to tell you, and he really wanted to go out to family dinner. So he knows he's in trouble with her. And so he's going to become, first he's agitated because of it. I'm all nervous. I'm supposed to be somewhere, but I don't want to tell her. Of course, she doesn't want to tell you. I want to go out with my girlfriend. Or, now think about it this way. He's enjoying his time with you, but he knows he needs to go. So he needs to become blustery. He needs to become puffed up and angry. He needs to incite some sort of conflict for an excuse to get out. It can be both of those. It could be either of those. I think there was something going on between the lines under the surface that wasn't about you. And it was about her. And it was about something where he needed to get out of there. He needed to cut and run. And I'm not saying either he was doing it as puffery to make an excuse, but due to, you're saying agitated and distracted, I'm thinking it wasn't puffery, because he wouldn't seem as distracted. He'd seem more overtly trying to create conflict. The agitation, the distraction more shows that something's going on in the background. He's supposed to do something, be somewhere, and he's getting itchy. I'm supposed to be somewhere. I'm nervous. I'm going to be so much trouble. That alienator is going to have my hide. She's going to be so mad at me. And so of course, he is becoming anxious. That's what I'm sensing right there. And so after that, he's already in a state. And now he has to borrow the car. He clearly needs to go somewhere. And then you give it to him on a condition that he can't hold, because the reason he needs to go somewhere may very well be because he's going to her. And then part of the condition is, I can't go where I'm supposed to go. There's no point in me borrowing the car, and there's control. He just needs to escape and get out of there, but he needs the car to do it because he can't complete his task without that car. I don't know why. I don't know why he needs the car for it, but for him, he can't complete his task. And now you are an object in his way. And due to his agitation and distraction, I don't think the thing that is making him anxious is you. I think it's the fallout, the consequences that she may give him. But you're the one in front of him, holding him there. You are enabling him to meet those negative consequences. So there are times where she's in my way to what I want. Right now, you're in his way, and being in his way, she's going to get me in trouble. So there are a lot of things going on in that. And it's not about you. Notice, it's not about you. Other than that, he feels controlled. He feels controlled by her, obviously. If that's what's going on, I'm speculating. But I know alienators. I know midlife crisis. And this is what happens in affairs. So if he's feeling controlled by her, and now you just added another element from you, he's got two women trying to control him. Try being the one who doesn't. I don't want us to compete. But if there's going to be a contest, we need to be the one who is like, you know what? Sure, here, honey, I know. Take the car. Do what you need to do. It's okay. I will see you when you get back. I know I need the car by morning. I trust you to get it back here in time. Okay? Don't worry. You get whatever you need to get done. Okay? And are you enabling or not? We don't know. There were times where, I knew that Chuck would sneak off to get a payphone so that she didn't check his cell phone. Was I enabling because I knew it or not? Don't know. It wasn't my job to say you can't call me if you're not calling me from the cell phone, but it's an unknown number and I find out it's a payphone. There are pieces of it that's just not for us. They have to deal with it. Okay, let's move on to number 4. Let's see. Okay. Or is it? Yes, number 4. Anonymous female left behind spouse. Bomb drop was October of 2021. She has a boomerang and a high energy replayer. Since bomb drop, my MLCR has been angry towards me. When he wants something, he's super nice and friendly. We have financial mediation for divorce today. I'm sorry. And that is actually today. This was submitted today. So the past week, he has been calling and texting, asking random questions and small talk. What size shirt should I get, son? For example, I'm guessing, what size shirt should I get, son? Did you see the email about the baseball schedule for son? I sent him the email, she says. He informed me he was going to church. The last communication, he told me he got his own place because he was living with a buddy. I'm confused as I'm thinking he's playing nice for the financials, but my heart wants him to be leaning towards me. I'm scared that he's going to get upset at mediation and go back to being angry. He filed the divorce. This past week was a glimpse of his old self, and I miss that. I just don't want to get my hopes up. Okay, so let's go over a couple of things. Much of it could be excuses to just make things go well at financial mediation and just to lull you into that. But some of the questions are not that kind. They're reaching out questions. They're touch and go questions. Sometimes touch and go questions are the ones like, what was the purpose of that? He's not doing things that look like just trying to be nice. Like if he brought you chocolate or roses or called and said, something that, I'm really love the way you do, blah, blah, blah. If he was giving you compliments, if he was buttering you up, but saying, what size shirt should I get, son? And did you email the schedule? a little more neutral. It's like, why did he do that? When, yeah, I emailed it. Kind of like when Chuck sent me a text saying, watching MASH. I knew exactly what it meant because you know, I love MASH and we used to watch MASH together. And I was with a friend and I'm like, yeah. She's like, what? Who cares? Yeah. But, you know, it had a personal meaning and I knew what he was saying. And he was being sentimental. So he informed me he was going to church. Now, that's something Chuck would have done also. Not the going to church, but the informing me because he knew it was important to me. And the last time he left her, that was how he told me. He showed up at church. As I was walking out the door, there he was. He didn't use words to say, I just left her, I moved out. His being there meant that, and we both knew it. And he could have done it other ways, but being at church, that was a big symbol of it. So that could be trying to butter you up as well. That's one that could. But maybe it's both. What if he's trying to butter you up for it to go easier during mediation and it's the other stuff as well? What if it's still a touch and go? What if it's still him reaching out? Now, all of that, forget it for a moment. October bomb drop. You're just past 6 months in. Barely. What is it? Are we at 8 now? 7, 8 months? So you're still in escape and avoid. So let's say he was turning around and looking at you and checking in, and it's still a cycle. He's still cycling. What I mean by that, it's good. You say boomerang and he's showing some clinging tendencies now that he might not have been. And they could be just for now. But let's see if we can keep this going. I don't want to get my hopes up. So I want you to be responsive to him, of course, when he contacts you and all of that. But, and you have to be careful because this is mediation and you have to fight for everything you need. Where can you not do that? In what places in the mediation can you not do it? And what places in other places of your life? Because it's harder. It's especially harder when you're sitting at a table and you need to negotiate the finances, the child custody, and he's going to be resistant and not like everything, and it is meant to be conflicted. Where can you release the control and say, you know what? I trust you with this. Where? I want you to think about it. It's harder for you than for the last two in many ways because you're sitting at a table with finances and you have to do everything you can to protect those finances. And I want you to do everything you can with that letting go at the same time. And it's like you're doing two opposing things. What can you let go? What can you say? You know what? I trust you to handle this appropriately. I trust you. Here's what I need. Here's what is fair. Here's what, the lawyers have suggested. And I think with the lawyers, I'm going to go with the lawyer's suggestion. This isn't what I asked for. That's another way I would always fall back and blame the lawyers. Well, it's a 50-50 state. I'm not trying to get more. It says 50-50. Or it's a 50-50 state. I spent the last 10 years raising the children and staying at home. I'm now going to have to go out. I have to maintain a house for them. And I have to go get a job. But I've had 10 years outside of the workforce, blah, blah, blah. So, it's not that I'm trying to steal your money, but alimony. Alimony is how I get my salary from those 10 years. And it's for our children. It's paying me for while you were working and I wasn't earning the income. They're going to be resistant to those things, but we have to do it with this softer voice. Not that firm, I am taking this, I owe it, I deserve it. Those are the things that are going to set him off. Those are the nags, those are the control. And I'm glad I'm not in your place because it is going to be hard. I want you to do everything you can, but I don't like it when we talk about, let's use language. We say fight for something. I don't like that. Fighting is conflict. It's resistant. And if you fight, what does the other person do? It's reactive. So they fight back. It sets it up for a negative situation. Peace for what you want. Peace for everything. I want to make peace a verb. I want to use the word peace like we use the word fight. I want to place it in like it's a synonym in that situation because we don't want it to be conflict oriented. I want to stand up for it. You know how we say stand up for what we want instead of fight sometimes. Whereas that's less conflict oriented. Now take that and say peace for what I want. I'm going to be peaceful regarding getting while standing up for what I want. Think of that peace while you're doing it. And let us know how it goes. Okay. Let's move on to number 5. We have 5, 6, and 7. So we have 3 left right now. So we have an anonymous female MLCer. I told you we have got one that's not anonymous. And bomb drop was March of 2020. So just past 2 years. Date of marriage is 2013. Contact type is a clinging boomerang and a high energy replayer. My question is about how they come back to the family. I guess they don't come back healthy and whole. How do they finally break free from the alienator when there's emotional blackmail? Yeah. Oh, I remember feeling that. I know he's afraid of her revenge. He told her things she can use against him. Even scarier. I don't think Chuck had that issue. Will he ever find the strength to break free no matter what? What's the proper way of reconciling? You mentioned a period of transition, but if he stays alone in his house, she'll find him, and I don't think he has the strength to stay no contact from her. In the past, whenever she contacted him after a couple of weeks of his withdrawal from her, it started again. Been there, done that. Yeah. He is still in replay, no doubt, though beginning to see the damage to the family and his health. Is it better to reconcile and live with him while he's still in MLC to keep the family together? Or is it better to leave him alone with her until his journey is over? I'm strong enough to deal with replay. I can't deal with affair, though. Okay. So, first thing, there's not your question at the end, is it better to reconcile while he's in MLC? It's not a reconciliation. Just because he lives at home, let's say. Is it better for him to, the question you're asking is it better for him to return home and stay here and go through his MLC, the latter part as an at-home MLCer? Or not? Yes and no. Now, you have kids, it's probably not a good situation. If you don't have kids, you need to know what you're getting into because that is the situation I created. I don't regret it. I don't regret it. That is why I talk so much about transitions, though. Because if you did that, he hopped from her to you. And that is, in my situation, Chuck lived with her. So if yours is living with her, he should not be allowed to live with her and then live with you. Move from a house where he's with her to a house with you. That's the transition. Because there's no bed hopping. And yes, you might have him be in a couch or a separate room. It's no house hopping. He doesn't just get to, I've left her and everything's fine now. But this is more than that. You're not keeping the family together. Chuck came and left 8 times. So, no, we weren't reconciled when he came home the first, second, third, fourth, etc. He was home for a full year. That was number 6, I think, because then I kicked him out. Then he came back one more time and left again. That was another regular size. I want to say mini since it was a full year, but that one was small. He wasn't gone for that long before I caved and let him in. And then he was gone again. And he wasn't gone for long that time. But then we put in a transition. So we were not both back in the house after that. And that was the time. So it totaled 8 leaves, which would be 8 returns as well. Yeah, if you're strong enough to deal with replay, you could be strong enough to deal with him returning. And are you strong enough to deal with him coming home and it not working? You are at 2-year mark. At the 2-year mark, it was 2 years is 24 months. So it was probably at about 21, 22 months when Chuck moved home and was home for a full year. Almost 2 years. And you're a month past that. that 2 years. When he came home, I knew he wasn't out of MLC. Now, I didn't know he was still having an affair, but it wasn't a shock. It was a like, seriously, again, I'm so pissed off. But it wasn't a shock. I mean, I knew he was a man in midlife crisis that had an affair partner. And as soon as he shut up with the phone, I knew exactly what I knew the whole purposes. I knew the affair was either kicked up again or still going on, but I didn't know which. So you need to be able to handle that, because a move home is not might be a return home. It is not a return. It is not a reconciliation. It is not rebuilding. So I want you to understand that. Now, I feel that for Chuck and I, there were some positives. And one of the positives, you have to have underlying that, you have to be able to handle it. If an LBS can't handle this, then it's not a positive. So there's a detachment. You have to be able to handle all of those. And you have to be able to handle the monstering at you and walk away from it. So if you're not detached, it's never going to work that way. But I felt that we did a lot of repair. I was learning how to deal with this conflict in this and be gracious during it. I was learning how to be detached and to focus on myself. It was one of the richest periods of my life when it came to self-focus and development. And the opportunities that came because of the space were amazing for me. So you have to be able to take the opportunities, and then he would come home. And those opportunities, it was like a brick wall sometimes, or close to it. They'd stop. It would be more a brick wall with 5 kids now. So I didn't have kids, so I still had a lot of free time. But some of the time I was suddenly working. Then I was not working, and I had free time, but he was there. Where are you going? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Then it would ramp up with the affair. I had to be able to handle that. Now, you say, I can't deal with the affair, though, anymore. Just because he comes home doesn't mean the affair is gone. No. And right now, at the 2-year mark, Chuck came home from 2007. His affair went underground. When he came home other times, he did not take that affair underground. He may have tried, but no, there was flaunt and taunt and obviousness going on. And the reason I wasn't kicking him out, because if you have a public affair where it really is public, they're throwing it in your face constantly. I think that might be a good time where you should say, okay, you know what? I don't want a divorce. I want to save our marriage, but there's a boundary being broken here. We can't do it while you're in the house. If you're going to be with that person, you're going to continue a relationship with that person, you're not allowed to be in this, here with me at this time. You may return home. And you have to put in a transition in place, but because that was one thing I had to communicate with Chuck, is you don't just return home when you say you're done with her. You are then allowed to contact me. It was return. The first step was, you may contact me. The no contact boundary goes away. We'll set up the transition at that point. And I told him, you're not allowed home for a year. I said a whole year. So I put that number out there, and I repeated it to the point that it scared him. And by scared him, I don't mean in a bad way. I mean, when he tried to leave one time, he called me and said, I'm leaving. I just left. Can I change my mind? Because you said I can't come back for a whole year. So that barrier, he was using it to avoid leaving. I mean, I knew he was going to leave, and he knew he was going to leave. But it stopped him on one occasion because of the barrier of a whole year where I can't be with my wife now. So right now, I think you're only 2 years in, and I know that sucks. But I can see MLCers starting to do a turnaround, but they're not done, anywhere near done at 2 years. 3 years, where Chuck, at the 3-year mark, I knew we were at our last. I knew we were at the last. I knew it was going to work if I held to the boundary of, we needed transition. And the transition was 12 months out of not being in the same house. And I came home on weekends and we counseled, and I increased my time spent home gradually over that 12 months, but I still left to take care of grandma each time until the 12 months was up. And it was 12 months from the time he walked out of the house, not 12 months from the time he walked out, then left her, and then 12 months, because it wasn't that long. That was what I did not define for him. I didn't say 12 months from the time you leave this house, because what if he was with her for 10 months? Then it'd only be 2 months between him and me, her and me. So I left that blank because I was going to figure out, well, what if he leaves for her and he's with her for 2 months? And that's about what it was. I was like, okay, we can do that. We can do that. Then it's really 10 months since he left her, 12 months since he left the house. That's doable. And so I didn't define it for him. And I would, because I thought I'm going to wait and see how long that piece takes. So you have to figure out what the distance is, that length of time is in your situation. If he needs a transition, you're right. How is he going to get away from her with the emotional blackmail? You can't control it. You can't. And it's going to seem like it's so strong. How can he ever get away from it? I just had to have faith. And one of the things I did with that was I worked on myself, and he saw it because he was a clinging boomerang. You have a clinging boomerang. He will see your strength. He will see you're strong, so you're not controlling him. He will see that he has more freedom, and he will pull through that. The idea of you, the lighthouse that you are, that mirror of, I want to be like that. You are going to be an example to him, but you are not somebody who tells him. The example, when we look at that lighthouse, the lighthouse does not reach out and grab us. It's not a lifeguard. The lighthouse serves many things. It's a warning. Stay away, rocks. But it's also a beacon. Over here, over here. I am over here. I am calling you. You are the lighthouse. You can't move. You're not a buoy. You're not a life ring. Stay where you are. Be consistent. Okay? You say you're strong enough, you're going to have to deal with the affair and the replay. And how do you deal with the affair? First thing, he's not home. Second, understand, and you know it, you've said it here, that he's going through emotional blackmail. There is this other person telling him, it's all your fault. You owe it to me. You've ruined my life. You have to, the irony of, if I ruin your life, why do you want me in your life? But you need to be with me. I left everything for you. I gave up everything for you. I can't do it without you. That is a big burden to put on somebody. And she's putting that on him. Plus, she's got, as you said, she has other things about blackmail she can do. It's not just emotional. She has the regular kind of blackmail, no modifier. She has things she can use against him. That adds another layer. He's scared. He's going to have to get up the courage. When he does get up the courage, you can be there and say, you know what, now I can help you with this without enabling. In other words, he's going to take my finances. And now he's ready to be a full spouse someday, but she's going to come after him now. And he finally has the courage, but he might need more resources. Then you can be there. Okay? Oh, I know that's a tough one, honey. Okay. Let's see I have two more, and I might not get them both because we only have 3 minutes. So let's go with number 6. We have Bonnie, female left behind spouse. Bomb drop was March of 2020. Date of marriage is 1987. She has a clinging boomerang and a high energy replayer. We've been married for, now this one, it's kind of, the writing is kind of choppy, so let me see how I get through it. Married for 34 and a half years, 3 children, a grandbaby. I'm retired and he owns his own growing business. He has childhood and adult trauma. It says a career. We bought a dream home in 89. Many improvements, purchased more properties. Okay, so you have rentals is what it sounds like. In our prime, bomb drop came. So just as you're getting to those golden year time. Bomb drop, May 2020. 1 year of marital therapy, there was improvement. Isolation, COVID hard. Both drinking. Both of you? Okay. Neglected the marriage and us. June of 2021, he again announced he was divorcing me. He left and moved in with her. She has 3 prior, it says 3 emotional affairs prior. So were that 3 other people who don't know. Alienated, plus he flaunted their new life. Okay, so I filed for divorce in July of 2021. very contentious. We rekindled in early December of 2021. Yeah, you're right. Clinging boomerang. We love each other. Divorce out of the courts. No more illegality. Okay, so it sounds like you stopped the divorce. It says D, out of the courts. No more illegality. Over the next 4 months, he cycled 4 times. She would not leave him alone. No, she won't. March 24, he again told me he has to divorce. Now, I like the way you say this. He has to. He didn't say he wanted a divorce. He said he has to. He hasn't pursued it. Back with her. I want to delay the divorce proceedings. His skanky relationship will end. Is this a realistic plan? Delay. Can you provide suggestions for how to do so without controlling? I am standing and working on detachment. So, first thing, you said he hasn't pursued it. So, in that sense, what do you have to do to delay? He's doing it for you. Here's what you do with the divorce proceedings. You respond, you don't react. When you get something, you react within the time frame that you are required to, and you don't help him with it. I know, what is it with March 2020? I know I had a couple. I noticed that too. Weird, huh? But I want you to just think, he's delaying it for you right now. You've got a clinging boomerang. I want you to put some faith in it, that he's going to be back and forth. Again, just like the others. Some of you are in the same situation today, and it's only 2 years in, and it's, oh my God, it's been 2 years, but they don't come home after 2 years. They continue to cycle. You have a lot of clues about that he wants to be home and that he can be home someday. And you have a lot of information about what alienators are like. They get their claws in, and they are barbed. Think about what a barbed means. It means you get it in and it has a little extra hook on it. So when you pull it out, it does more damage. It's there so that it can cling in. Alienators have barbed claws, so they can't get him out. And she is using all of these things against him. She will not leave him alone. Now, who knows which one will end eventually. But it's not. 3 years is, I think, more standard than 2 years. And he's for the relationship. 3.5, 4 could go. But I think 3 years seems to be very standard. So, sure, I wouldn't say I haven't seen them end at 2 years. That doesn't mean they're out of their MLC, though. But 3 years. Yeah, they go at least that, okay? So, she is going to be able to hold on and hold on and hold on. And then it will ramp up even more energy when he is getting stronger to get out. And will he have that strength? Can he get up over it? Think about that last part of that hill is the hard part before you come down. Can he get up over that last part? Because you know he's almost there. Almost there. It's not that delay is a realistic or not realistic plan. Legally, it is not. You are not allowed to legally drag out a divorce. Now, we can still drag out a divorce by doing certain things. We contest. I sent the divorce papers back saying that is not my name. It was misspelled. But I didn't correct it. I sent it back for correction. Nitpicky. No, they didn't have my... He left all sorts of things blank. Birth dates, everything. Okay, send it back. And she just sent it back. Now, those are the tiny things that are going to be fixed on the very next draft. And my divorce process didn't go beyond that. He filed on June 9th, and we together walked into his lawyer's office and stopped it on August 24th. And that's happened. It does. It's not the norm. But I want you to, all you do is you stand back and you say, okay, I understand. You're going to divorce. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's the appropriate response. But you're going to have to, you do what you need to do. And it makes me sad. And I know it, I can tell that it makes you sad as well. Because he did not say he wanted to divorce you this time. He said he had to. She's told him that. She is nagging him about it. And she's being really, I can even hear a grating voice about it. He's just like cowering from it. But he doesn't have the power right now to withstand it. He's giving in, and he will give in, give in. Why do they give in to that person? Well, that person has the emotional blackmail, the thing you're not going to use. You're going to be detached, you're going to be gracious, and you're going to show him that you trust him. And by trust, I don't mean with fidelity. Oh, good Lord, no. I don't mean, I mean, I trust you to be the man, be a man, and make the right choices. And I know that sometimes, sure, you're not always going to make, but I trust that you will get there. I trust you'll get there in the end. I know you will. I know the you that is inside, and you're a good man. And, sometimes we go through challenges in life, but we also get through them. And you want to get through it? Well, you know what? I'm right here. I'm right here. Okay? I'm not going to rescue you because I can't. That would just help you to keep falling. But I'm right here, and I want you to know I am here cheering you on. Okay, it is 3:04. So I have one left that I will try and get pushed out this week. If not, I will. It will be during next week's. And thank you so much for coming. I will see everybody next week. Bye-bye.